Yeah. Woo. Phone ringing for the work. They waiting on me like the 15 the first. I'm killing competition, put them bitches in the hearse. Been diagnosed with a sick flow, with a nurse. Yeah, do it for the city, but the hood getting turned. With the money going around like an offering.
Yo, welcome to the Bubblenuts Sports Podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Bubblenuts. I do have a face. You can finally see me now. This is episode 107, a monumental episode for the podcast. We're now face to face. You can look at me and look at this beautiful face. I shaved, I did my hair. I wore the best shirt for this occasion. I dressed up, a little bit of the bubbly. But look at us. Look at us. Who would have thought? Not me. Look, we got Tony Romo up there. We got Marion Barber. Love that man. Got the Ezekiel Elliott candle that my sister got me, which is amazing. Love it. And you got Dad. You got my dad, Dak Prescott, right next to his Zeke fathead. Look, people, this is the setup now. This is the exact setup that we're doing for the podcast. We are now streaming on YouTube. And along with this announcement of finally having a YouTube channel, finally getting video that I've always wanted to do with the new webcam, on Sunday, as we're recording this is Monday night, January 27th, just under a week before the Super Bowl. As of right now, we are doing a live stream watch along for the Super Bowl. Eddie and I will be together. Maybe some other people stop by, who knows. But we're going to do a live stream watch along of the Super Bowl. We're going to have our takes. We're going to have our reactions. You can come to the stream, just talk in the chat, support us, subscribe, which is huge for YouTube, and just have a great time. I know you guys are going to be watching the Super Bowl no matter what, but if you just stop in, drop by, and leave a comment or just say hi, that would be more than enough for us in that live stream that we're going to be doing on Sunday night. So thank you for all the support. We've come a long way, people. I mean, what are we, 7-8 months in to the podcast? And look at us, microphone, setups. We've moved from website to website. We're finally making money off the podcast. We have subscribers, and now we're on YouTube with a webcam. Now, I'm not gonna lie, casting couch might come out of nowhere. It's my first time, Are you open to doing a calendar? Things are gonna go down, all right? But this is episode 107 of the Bubblenuts Sports Podcast, and this episode is dedicated to topics in sports, but generally after Sunday, and this is where it gets a little bit serious. Yesterday was a very tough day in sports. Kobe Bryant passed away alongside his 13-year-old daughter, Gigi, and 9 in total alongside victims in a helicopter crash. I won't go into complete details because I want to save this really for the appreciation podcast we're going to do later on this week. Eddie and I will come on here, and it'll be the first episode we have together with the webcam. And we're going to appreciate the life of Kobe Bryant. We're going to talk about our favorite moments and what impact he had in our lives, and also talk about the crash itself briefly. But it's not going to be a somber episode. It's going to be a very lively, positive episode talking about how impactful Kobe Bryant was to not only sports, but just life in general, for his Mamba mentality and what he did on and off the court. And also talk about those affected by the helicopter crash, those prayers, the condolences that I have for those families. Vanessa and the Bryant family, the other families involved. We're going to talk about them. We're going to appreciate them later on this week in a different episode. But for right now, why I'm mentioning Kobe Bryant, rest in peace to that man, Black Mamba. The reason why is alongside Kobe Bryant passing away, along with those 8 others. Last night I was watching the Royal Rumble. I'm a huge WWE fan. I'm a huge wrestling fan. As you can tell from the shirt, Chris Jericho. And then I have plenty of other shirts to choose from. But I've been watching this since I was 6 or 7 years old. And I've loved it ever since. And one of those guys, one of those wrestlers from my early time as a wrestling fan in WWE was Edge. The rated R superstar Edge. And during that time, during that period where I was watching it, I loved John Cena, I loved Batista, The Undertaker, all these good guys, all the baby faces. Edge was the perfect heel at that time. And that man did everything from, berating the crowd, winning championships on cheating terms. But one of my moments that I probably shouldn't have watched this as a kid, but just the fact that him and Lita, his girlfriend at the time, on and off screen, there was a whole issue with Matt Hardy being the boyfriend of Lita, and then her cheating on Matt with Edge. It's a whole ordeal. It's actually one of the craziest stories in wrestling history that is like based on a true story. Him and Lita, once they won the title, they decided to have a live sex show on Monday Night Raw. As a 8 or 9-year-old at that time, good content, really good content. I mean, PG type of good content, but still good content. The bra came off. Man showed himself in some boxer briefs. It was a good old time for Monday Night Raw, if I'm telling you it straight up. But unfortunately, toward the end of 2010, 2011, the injuries started to pile up, especially in his neck. And for Edge, he decided on April 2011 he would retire from professional wrestling and to move on from it, go into acting, but it was not by his terms whatsoever. He was, in his speech, which was very moving, he talked about how if he had to do it all over again, through all the injuries, through all the bangs, the bumps, everything, he would do it all over again. And then last night, the rumors were going around saying he signed a new contract with WWE, and that included wrestling matches, which would be the first time in 9 years since he retired. But the speculation is hearsay. It's never legit, and he's actually come out on Twitter as a work. That's what you say in wrestling terms. That he just swerved all these people to say, look, that's not real. There's no truth to any of that. And that the number 21 spot in the Royal Rumble last night, his music hit. And his music is absolutely great. I mean, I was actually going to start off with just saying the lyrics because, they just go really well with his character. It just embodies him. It's just metal, but it's also very just Edge-like. It's edgy. No pun intended. But he came out, and the man's 46 years old. He's got the gray beard. He actually grew out the hair again because for a very long time he had the short hair. He came back out and did his typical move set to where he just he was actually very excited. He went all across the setup, the stage, and the crowd just went wild. One of the biggest pops that I've heard as a WWE fan. And then he did his pyro thing where he did the horns up and he posed and all that. But there's one picture, and I'm going to post it right here. I'm sorry for all the people that are still listening to this as a podcast, through Spotify, Apple Podcast, or iTunes. You won't be able to see it. I will tweet it out, so check out my Twitter at Bubba_Lutz. I will tweet that picture. But this picture, this still frame of Edge just looking out in the crowd, looking out into the I forget, 42,000 people were in attendance that night. Him looking across and seeing all those fans cheer him on, and the emotion of him coming back nearly 9 years out, and the reason why he was out was the injury to his neck, triple fusion neck surgery to his vertebrae. That no one comes back from that. That is the reason he had to retire, was if he takes one more spear, if he puts out one more spear, if he takes one bad bump, this man could not walk ever again. And that is so ridiculous. That is scary to think as a professional wrestler that's been doing it for over 15 years, for him to be one more time and you may not be able to walk ever again. And that emotion in his speech when he retired, he was crying. He was like, I want to do it all over again if I could. And from that point on, never getting cleared to come back into the ring. And that one still frame, for him to look out in the crowd and you see the emotion in his face. I got emotional myself, watching it over again. It is one of the greatest moments in WWE history. By all means, he actually did return after another injury in 2010 to the Royal Rumble, and that was a great moment, but it just didn't really like compare at all to the pop and that reaction that he had last night. And the reason why I'm bringing this, I'm tying this back into Kobe and putting it with Edge. It was an emotional day yesterday. I was at work, and as soon as I got there, I got the TMZ report that was saying that he unfortunately passed away. I didn't believe it. I don't trust TMZ. I don't want to put a tabloid type company as the frontliner for Kobe's passing news until I saw it on CNN and it was confirmed. And my boss actually saw me walk in, and later on he told me, you went pale, like you looked distraught. And look, I'm not a Lakers fan. I really don't have a team in the NBA. But my first NBA finals was the Celtics and the Lakers early on, like mid 2000s. And that was the first finals I ever watched that got me into basketball. And that's the year that the Lakers won. Forget what championship Kobe won at that point. I mean, there's many to choose from. But that Celtics-Lakers rivalry, it paved the way for all these big teams and these rivalries down the stretch. But I fell in love with Kobe. I fell in love with that team. Phil Jackson, Kobe, Pau Gasol, Lamar Odom, like all those guys. I fell in love with them, man. I fell in love with the Celtics too. And from that point on, I watched basketball. And it was so much fun to watch those. So he didn't have the personal impact that Lakers fans have to him. Shout out to Rooster. I reached out to him yesterday. And I don't want to talk about our conversation because that's personal. But he was impacted heavily because he's a Lakers fan. And he grew up with Kobe. That inspired him. And that hits home, man. Like, Rooster's one of my guys. It hits a lot of people differently. But what he did for sports, me. I'm a basketball fan. I'm a sports fan. And history was made by Kobe. He is one of the greatest to ever play. So the reason why I'm bringing it up, and I'm trying to get to this point, is it can be all taken away at any point. It can be gone in a matter of a second. So Kobe passing away, going to his daughter's basketball game at his own facility, him passing away like that, or Edge having his whole wrestling career as a Hall of Famer, like he's going to be a Hall of Famer, for that to be taken away from him because the doctor says that he can no longer wrestle and he has to go into surgery immediately. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's all fate. It's all a part of God's plan. It's all a part of it, and there's nothing you can really control about that. But when you still have time on this earth, when you still have that one life to live, and unfortunately Kobe was so young, 41 years old. There was some conversation of him still playing basketball, he could still play probably. That's ridiculous for a 41-year-old man, but it's the Black Mamba, it's Kobe Bryant. He could do it. And then for Edge to be like, well, 9 years after my last match, just winning the title, and I was forced to retire. Well, now it's my destiny. It's my fate for the doctors to say I can wrestle again. I am good to go, and to take that chance to and some of those hits he was taking last night. I know wrestling's fake, whatever, but some of those bumps, man, those are legit. They still have a lot to give, and for Edge to take that chance, to make it far. I mean, he lasted 30 minutes in that Royal Rumble, which is a long time. That's about half the time that it lasts. For him to be in the Final Four against these big, stronger guys, he looked fit. He looked good. He had a moment with Randy Orton, who used to be a teammate with him, a tag team. Those moments, man, it got me so emotional because I grew up with Edge. I grew up with Rated RKO. With him and Lita, being the bastard of a heel, and get to see him fulfill his dream one more time, to be back in the wrestling ring, in the squared circle. It's amazing to me. It was a moment. And that picture, man, I will never overlook that picture. That's one of the greatest pictures of all time. And I really hope that WWE recognizes this as one of the greatest moments in their company's history. Because Edge, in my eyes, like, represented my childhood, and in a lot of people's eyes, Kobe represented their childhood. They made them happy. They made them forget about life, and that's what wrestling was to me. It made me forget about the bullying at school. It made me forget about the tough times in my life. You know, as a young boy, you know, it was great to just go home and watch wrestling every single day, and that's exactly what I did. And Edge was a big part of that. So, in general, like, this whole podcast is about. It's about recognizing how short of a life it is. And I woke up today and I was like, I have a lot to do. I could either sit in this bed all day and not do anything like I do sometimes, or I can get up, you know, do some chores around the house, help my family out, and then be productive. You know, I'm going to go to the gym right after this, because the Mamba mentality is, you know, you got to work. You got to work to earn it. I'm not going to earn like a you know, some muscles. You know, in a couple months, maybe you look back at this and you say, like, dude, it looks skinny. Like, boy, you look 12. Like, shit, true. But, like, I got to think of, like, the Mamba mentality. I got to think about Kobe Bryant, how he had to work for everything. And he never asked for any gratitude. He never asked for, you know, like a ribbon. Never asked for a gold star. He just worked and worked. And even after, you know, retiring, he still worked every day. He worked to be a better father. You know, he didn't have to work to be the greatest NBA player of all time. He worked to be a great father to his 3 or 4 children, and then to be the best husband he can to Vanessa. And Edge, you know, worked to be one of the greatest heels of all time. He worked to be one of the best wrestlers in WWE's recent history. And for that man to work and work to get back into the ring in 2020, 9 years past his retirement, for him to get back to that look better than ever. How can you not be inspired by that? How can you not be moved by that? Yesterday was a long day, I will say. You know, a lot of emotion, a lot of ups and downs. And the down was Kobe Bryant, but the up was seeing a man that is seeing how short life is, and to take the chance to trust himself and to get back into that ring against some of the best in the world at wrestling and live out his dream once more is beyond inspiring. It's beyond really life itself. But to me, man, it's like Edge. I love that man. That's one of my favorite moments in sports history. That, you know, we just went through like some of my best moments or my favorite moments in my lifetime in sports. You know, talk about, you know, Mexico winning that soccer game, the World Cup in 2016. Seeing all those different moments, you know, throughout my life, and kind of realizing, like, taking that moment in last night, seeing like, wow, like this actually is a big moment, not just to WWE and to wrestling, but to me personally, because I grew up with that man. And to think of like a guy that was taken too soon in Kobe Bryant, you know, imagine if Edge never got to live out his dream. What if he was never told that he was clear to go, and he never got to have that same reaction like he did last night? And turns out he's going to be wrestling even more, you know, for the next 3 years. You know, that man can still go. And I'm going to appreciate every single moment of that. And not only appreciate what he's doing, but appreciate my life. Appreciate that I'm watching this as it happens, and look around me and say, I have a lot to live for. I have a lot to appreciate. And the little things are what matter. So I'm going to do my best to live the life that I can, not take every day for granted. It's cliche to say when you're looking at all these different people that are like tweeting about Kobe, you know, being gone, and tweeting about like, don't take every day for granted. It's one thing to see it. It's one thing to be like, oh yeah, that's true. But it's another thing to live it. It's another thing to really take that saying, take that information, and actually execute that in real life. So this is exactly what I'm doing. Like right now, when I'm looking at you through this camera, I'm not just seeing a camera. I'm seeing the people that are watching this. I'm seeing the people that are supporting me for my dream. They're appreciating what I do on a daily basis and enjoying it. You know, I want to do this for the rest of my life. I want to talk about sports. I want to talk about, you know, every personal and emotional part of my life And I want you to know about that. I want you to feel that. You know, when I'm commentating games, let's say 20 years out, and you're saying, like, I know that guy. I went to high school with that guy. I used to hang out with him, and I knew him for so long. And then you see me commentating a soccer game, a football game, and you see the emotion that I'm giving out. You see the fun that I'm trying to have. You know, like Tony Romo, like, you know that guy's having fun with his job. That's exactly what I want to do. And one day when I'm right next to Tony Romo, I'm right next to Dak right now, but I got Tony Romo right by me. This is only the beginning, Tony. I got to freaking figure out the finger. I got a long finger. Call me ET, shit. When I have him next to me, you know, doing a play-by-play for the Super Bowl one day, which is going to happen. You know I'm going to make it to there. You know that I'm living out my dream, and this is the beginning. So yes, we can take all the Kobe talk, we can take all the little Edge talk that I was mentioning, and I know it's like kind of random for me to talk about wrestling on this podcast, but go and watch that. You know, you can find the clip on any wrestling Twitter account or Instagram account, and you can see just the raw emotion in that moment. You saw the cameraman try to find Edge, but Edge just went to the side and started, you know, cheering with the fans. And that's unscripted. That's organic. That's a moment that you can't script, that you can't make up. That is just in the moment. That is what happened. And it feels natural. It feels really good. And the emotion that came out of me, I wish someone was watching it with me. I hope that one day someone appreciates wrestling as much as I do, and we get to watch it side by side. And they see me getting hyped up. They see me getting emotional about the moment. But that's it, man. It's like those moments. You got to appreciate them. You got to know when you're in the moment. You got to appreciate that a lot more. So my challenge to you, and I will be right there with you, is that, you know, either tonight, whenever you're watching this, whenever you're listening to this, go out and do what you love. Stop worrying about the small shit. Stop worrying about all these little things going on in your life where they're not going your way. Right now, there's things not going my way right now. But do you see me complaining? I put a smile on my face. I'm doing an episode for you guys because this is what I love doing, and it puts a smile on my face. Getting to do this. Finally doing the setup properly. And finally getting to a different gateway to get my podcast out there and doing the live stream on Sunday. Like, that's huge. Who would have thought that I would have been doing that like 6 months ago? You know, I asked people, I'm like, hey, what do you think about me doing a live stream? And they're like, that's awesome. Like, why don't you do that? And then I feel like all these projects, all these ideas are coming into play where I get to do like podcasts on the Super Bowl. I get to do live streams on like UFC fights where I got the guys over and all that. And then like growing from there, you get to see me grow and really like grow old with me in a sense on this podcast. But this is not just a short-term thing. Like, we're growing. You know, buying this webcam is a huge step. I don't really have the money for this shit. But guess what? We've earned so much money from the podcast already that this was all from you guys. Like, you contributed to this. And I am so appreciative of you guys. I can't tell you enough how grateful I am for you. And I'm getting a little emotional right now. That we're 107 episodes in. You know, this has been like a 3-year stretch of the podcast, but really, these last 6 months have been some of the best in the podcast. And I couldn't thank you guys enough. Whether you just come in that live stream for 2 minutes, whether you watch this or listen to this for 2 minutes, who cares? Because really, you took the time out of your day. You even thought about me and saying like, wow, like he actually has a good setup. He actually like is improving. And I have so much more to work with or work for and to work on, I should say. But I can't thank you guys enough for allowing me to do this and to support me throughout. So first YouTube video in the books. You know, we got plenty more to look forward to in this next week. Like I said, the appreciation episode that we're going to do for Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace, my man. We're definitely... We're definitely thinking about you and your family and all those affected. You know, thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family and the ones that are affected as well. We're going to come back later on this week to talk about Kobe Bryant. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl. There's a lot of things that we got to look forward to, man. Like there's going to be a lot of episodes that we're going to talk about for the Super Bowl, and I'm super excited, especially for the live stream. So please, whenever that game starts, I want to say it's like in the late afternoon or early evening. We're going to start an hour, like 30 minutes to an hour before the Super Bowl actually gets underway. So I'll put out some more information on the live stream later on this week when we finally get some details going. We finally do the setup correctly. I'm going to do some tests on the live stream later on this week just to make sure everything's ready to go. But make sure to check that out. Please just come in every once in a while, like when you're in the halftime show and you're like, look, Jennifer Lopez and Shakira are cool, but you got Eddie and Bubba Lutz. You're like, I mean, I can shake my ass for some dollar bills if you want me to, but it ain't going to be cheap. Just saying. All right. So like, check us out for just a minute or two. I know my friends are going to come in here and just support me. So thank you so much for listening and watching this podcast. I want to keep these somewhat short. I don't want to go like an hour long where you're just watching me like be like hot as hell, you know, look at this cute face and all that. But you know, there's a certain, you can't take a lot of your time. You know, I know you're a busy person. So thank you again. And we're doing great things here at the Bubba Let's Sports Podcast. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you next time on the Bubba Let's Sports Podcast.